Okay, welcome to Seminar Sunday, the weekly episodic webinar series from Toastmasters District 21. We have our special guest tonight. Again, we have Michelle Albalin coming back to talk to us about moments of truth, a very important aspect of the Toastmasters program to make sure that we get feedback on how we are doing in our meetings. Those club meetings are the most important part of what Toastmasters delivers. So please welcome Michelle Albalin.
Thank you very much, Sean. And I am not a guest. I am a member of District 21. Just saying.
Guest
And
presenter, let me rephrase that.
okay, okay. Yep. So let me start by just finding out, because I have learned from past experience that taking things for granted does not work. So I am going to ask everyone a very simple question, and please just answer. There you are. See, I it's good not to take things for granted. Okay, so we are waiting for, we have 75%. Maybe the rest are on the phone. They can't maybe vote. Okay, so, oh yeah, there you are. Whoa. I am so glad I asked this question. Look at the answer. Are you seeing the answer? I mean, do you see it on your screen as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What? Who would have expected? In the past, I would assume that, okay, anyone who's been with Toastmasters for a year has participated in the Moments of Truth. And I found out, because I conducted Moments of Truth on the big stage in Connecticut. That was 2009, the Toastmasters International Convention. I spoke on Moments of Truth. And I couldn't believe it. But even at world headquarters, there were people who had not participated in Moments of Truth. Wow, that really made me realize never to take things for granted. And so we know that we have 50-50 in this group. 50% have participated in Moments of Truth and 50% have not. Let us now, considering that we have 50-50, obviously, I know how the answer is probably going to be. And yes, there you are. We have, I hope you're seeing it. We have 67% who have not conducted, obviously, because those were the 50% who had not even participated, but also even amongst those who had participated, only, I would say, half of those who had participated have actually conducted a Moments of Truth. And I love it because it's not really that much fun if I'm talking to people who have not only participated, have conducted over and over again. Well, it's still fun, but this is more fun because I will be sharing some information which for some may be their first time to hear this. So let me pull up. I have so many things that I've set up here. Let me be sure I'm pulling up the right thing. So Moments of Truth. Now, what is perhaps the best analogy? Let's say, what is your favorite establishment, business establishment, restaurant, for example? Well, just unmute yourself and just shout it out. What's your favorite restaurant? Jim or Lisa or, okay, Sean, what's your favorite restaurant?
I'm trying to think. I don't go out much.
Ooh,
This
I
week
think,
I went out to an Olive Garden. How's that?
okay, we heard mental telepathy. I was thinking that Jim was about to unmute himself.
Well,
There.
we haven't been out much recently either, so there's a nice sushi place nearby.
Okay. So you have a sushi place, you have an Italian place. What is it that you like about the place? What is your first impression of the place that makes you want to go back to it?
Fresh food.
Fresh food, okay. Jim, I'm guessing sushi, probably fresh food as well, or flavor. Now, that is a first impression, and that is a moment of truth. A restaurant, a bank, a department store, a retail establishment, Toastmasters. We all have moments of truth. And these are moments that, and my chat is blocking me right now. Let me just get rid of it. It's a tool that helps us, in the case of Toastmasters, to continue that club quality that we want by finding out what are the moments of truth. What are those impressions that people who come to us, to Toastmasters, have? Just like when we go to Olive Garden, we smell the aroma when we go in, or the sushi, we just see all the fresh food. For Toastmasters, what are the moments of truth? Now, each moment of truth will represent for our club an opportunity to create that favorable first impression. So, a high quality club, of course, it encourages member achievement. That's very important. And even if a guest just comes for the first time, they will see that. Or if you're already a member, you will know you just had your first level and nobody cares. Versus people are applauding, you have a printout of your level 1 or your first path. Wow. There's a supportive and fun environment that registers. When you ask people, why do you drive 30 miles to go to your club? They're not going to tell you, oh, I learn a lot. Well, yeah, maybe, but they will most likely say, it's fun and my club members support me. I feel like it's a family. And sometimes it is. It is really is more than our biological family. But also, see, you can have fun and supportive and friendly people, but you also expect in a high quality club to have professionally organized meetings. Because if it's all fun and it's chaotic and you're not seeing that things are organized, then after a while, well, yeah, you're not going to drive every week or every other week just to go to that fun place. You can have fun elsewhere. So you also want to see professionally organized meetings and club officers who know what they're doing, or at least act like they know what they're doing. And members have access to a formal mentoring program. I created the Pathways Discussion Forum, and now we have close to 84, I think, yeah, very close to 8,400 members. One of the most common things that is raised, or issues, concerns that are raised, is we don't have any mentors. We're like the blind leading the blind. So having a formal mentoring program really helps. Also, members need evaluations, not just the, oh, you were great, as always, you were great. That doesn't cut it with a high quality club. They need evaluations that will help them to grow. And of course, somebody pushing or cheering members to achieve their goals. So these are some of the qualities of a high quality club. And moments of truth is, as I already mentioned ahead earlier, anyone who comes in contact with Toastmasters, you get that first impression or you get that lasting impression. And sometimes the lasting impression lasts way beyond your membership. Even after leaving the club, people will still talk about it. So a moment of truth is extremely critical. And Toastmasters has 6, how do I count 6? There, 6 categories of moments of truth. As I mentioned first impressions. The second is membership orientation. Oh, this is another of the big concerns. Okay, so we were guests, we joined, and then boom, we're supposed to know everything. Moments of truth are also very important when it comes to orienting new members. And then, of course, I already mentioned that. How can I not mention fellowship and fun and variety? That's another category. Also, as I already mentioned, the meeting needs to be well planned. So the fourth category is program planning and meeting organization. And then membership strength. I mean, this is a painful one. Membership strength is almost like which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Because when you have a great club, then you tend to attract more members. But the challenge is when you don't have enough members, you tend to be double or doing triple roles. Then it tends to exhaust the members who are active. And when you have guests coming in, they look around and say, what is this? The Toastmaster is welcoming the speaker. And the Toastmaster is also speaking. I mean, it doesn't create a very good impression. That's why membership strength is so important, because number one, you just have more energy, and then you don't have to do tag team with the roles. And of course, achievement recognition. And people sometimes say, oh, I don't need to be recognized. Well, some people say that, but deep down inside, there is that desire for recognition in everyone. So what are some of the things that we see or we look for in first impressions? Think about, do our guests greeted warmly? Are they introduced? Do people even mind them when they come into the room, or even before they come, when they inquire at Toastmasters International or from the club website? Does somebody respond to them? This one is, I say this because this material is, it includes it, but I know that there are some clubs that don't have name tags, don't do name tags, but it really helps, especially if the membership is fairly large. It helps to have name tags. Or with online meetings, the cool thing is that there is a default name unless you change it. And what we do with online clubs is we encourage people to put their name and where they're from, so people get to know them. That's our version of name tags. Well, again, this applies to physical rooms. You can't professionally arrange a meeting room online, but at least if you have a blended club, meaning you have physical participants and online participants, you make sure that the camera is focused nicely and the seats are all included in the camera focus. So that's the blended version of professionally arranged meeting room. If it is an all physical room, are you making sure that there's no clutter? That, you have the banner nicely arranged, you have the lectern, everything looks professional. That really makes a favorable first impression. Oh, and the meeting location. You can have a great club, but if you have to run loops to find it, or it's like a mystery treasure hunt, then that's going to be difficult. However, if you have a very nice location, it's free, but it's a little bit out of the way, you can help by making sure that people know beforehand. Put it on your website. Let guests know that, it's a little bit difficult to find. You turn left, you turn right, give them step-by-step instructions so they are not frustrated. And oh gosh, I cannot count the number of times that officers sometimes, or the Toastmaster, forgets to invite guests to address the club. Whenever that happens, I'm always like, excuse me, point of order. I'd like to hear from our guest. That is so important. It takes some people say, oh, we're running short on time. Well, you can say very briefly, or if your Toastmaster is running short on time, maybe a little bit of compression on certain things, but always make sure that the guests have an opportunity to address the club. And guests will understand. You can always say, well, we're very close to the end of our meeting. However, I don't think we should end without asking for some very brief comments. You can just indicate that you really want it to be brief. And of course, I have been to clubs where the guests rather, are never invited to join. And somebody once said to me, oh, I didn't know that I could join. I thought I would have to wait for a year or something. So make sure you ask the guest, hey, would you like to join us? Here's our membership form. There's no harm in asking if no pressure, but you should always ask. What about membership orientation? Let's say your guests have joined. How many clubs actually have a formal induction? Present a pin, well, not manuals anymore, but at least present them with the information. These are the different paths or different levels and so on. And I know I belong to a club where we actually light a candle and we pass the candle on to the new member. And we make sure that somebody is recording it, a little bit of drama. But hey, that's how people become inducted into organizations that they belong to for a long time. So why not our club? Assign a mentor. And now you might say, some people are confused with pathways. So they say, well, I haven't reached that level yet. I can't be a mentor. No, that's a different thing. And this is not where we'll talk about details in pathways. But a mentor can be anybody who has some experience in the club. That person doesn't have to have completed a path or be officially signed up for the Toastmasters mentor program. Just anyone with a bit of experience can be a mentor. The education program and recognition system is discussed. Don't go into too much detail. You don't want to scare the new member. And Toastmasters International does a great job. They have the links when members join, but it still helps to have either the vice president of education or the vice president membership or even the president helping to walk the member through the path. Learning needs are assessed. There is a formal questionnaire that Toastmasters provides, the member needs survey, or the club can create its own, depending on, especially if the club is an advanced club, like we talked about last month, then the learning needs could be assessed in a different way. But make sure that you make that effort. And finally, you'll be amazed at how many new members will be willing to do their icebreaker if you just ask them. We just had a member who joined us last week, and his papers hadn't been fully processed by Toastmasters yet. But I asked him, would you like to do an icebreaker? And he's like, I said, you just tell us about yourself. And the next thing you know, he's giving an icebreaker. Again, you have to do this case by case. That person was experienced. He was a professor and all that. So don't pressure a person to speak if you realize that they're really shy and they're just really starting out. And involve the member in club activities, which of course begs to be said that there have to be some club activities. And that's something that the sergeant at arms, the vice president for membership, or any of the officers can organize. Which brings us to the third point, fellowship, variety, and communication. That's part of where some club activities could be. Do you greet your guests warmly when they come in? Do you have enjoyable educational meetings? Aha! Do you have regularly scheduled social events? If some of you are saying, what? Social events? Uh-huh. Well, we used to go on picnics. We would, well, obviously not now. It's a little bit too cold, but in summer, we would organize a picnic. We would go to a park, and it was actually a combined social event for us, but also a recruiting strategy, because people will be looking at us, what are those guys doing? They're standing up in the park, they're gesturing. And we would always have our Toastmasters banner there. Oh gosh, it was fun. We would bring our significant others, and if the kids could promise to be fairly quiet, then they could come along. It was so much fun. Another club, we did and you don't have to do this if you don't drink, but we did a bar hop. So you went to different bars and we would have table topics in each one of them. Sometimes it could be a movie night, and then you do table topics after that movie night. There's so many things. Oh, we had a sergeant at arms who was she loved to bake. So she would bring all of this stuff, and gosh, the food was really good. The only challenge was the next year nobody wanted to be sergeant at arms because they were saying we can't match that. But it doesn't have to be something fancy. Just think of some kind of social events where people can bond, so they don't just see each other at the meeting and that's it. Oh, yes, this is so important. Participation in area, district, and international events. I have seen members grow because they participated outside their club and they see the larger picture. So if you're an officer, encourage your members to participate in area, division, district, and hey, maybe an international convention if it's close by. Like this year, it's in Denver. That's relatively close. You just fly down. Not as close as it was 2 years ago in Vancouver, of course. You missed that if you didn't go to that one. And inter-club events, that is so much fun. If you have 2 or 3 clubs within the area, have an inter-club event, an open house, for example, or just a fun contest, not necessarily the official contest. It could be anything that will bring clubs together. There's just so much you can do. And whatever you did, put it in your club newsletter or your website or Facebook page, whatever it is, wherever you communicate, have a buzz, have these activities mentioned there because people like to join things that are fun. And of course, we were talking about the fun. You also need the program planning. The agenda, it's really important to have it publicized in advance. I have this Advanced Club Global Trainers online where people will attend because they are attracted by the theme. Last week, our theme was articulate or captivate. And we had people coming in because they were attracted by the theme and by who would be speaking. So publicize the agenda ahead of time and make sure, oh gosh, this is difficult because sometimes things happen, people get busy, last minute emergencies, but make an effort to make sure that the members are prepared to carry out their program assignments. I'm the VPPR of that club and I'm the one who invites a lot of guests. So I always make sure that the members who are signed up are ready because, hey, I invite guests, but if the meeting is not running so smoothly, then those guests are not going to come back because their first impression would not be positive. And again, so important, we replace that word manual maybe with level or path, now with pathways, but make sure that all projects have either a manual or a level. Don't just speak off the cuff because how is the speech going to be evaluated if there are no objectives? And so you have an audience, you have guests watching, and they're like, oh, they were just talking. I don't know, they were just talking. And then the evaluator just says, as usual, Michelle, you were great. Huh, what was that? That's not a high quality club. It will not give a favorable impression. Oh gosh, I am obsessive about this. Meetings begin and end on time. Why? Because we have people who come in and they know that it's supposed to start here and end there. If you don't start on time, or worse, if you don't end on time, then you have not respected people's time boundaries. So it's so important that you begin and end your meeting on time. And table topics. Same old is not going to cut it. Have different table topics, different ways of doing it. Create some fun. You can have a bag, you can pull out stuff. You can, like I said, we could have a movie night and we talk about it. There's so many different ways to have creative table topics, and we won't go there right now because I know that you probably could have shared, you have had your own experiences with how you can have creative table topics. And positive, helpful evaluations. I cannot repeat often enough that evaluations to be helpful must point out something for improvement. If it's all, oh, you were great, you were wonderful, you're the best. That's great, but now you have to say and because we're Toastmasters and we are constantly striving for improvement. I would suggest, and then you add something where the person could go up to the next level next time. Membership strength. I know this is perhaps the hardest for some clubs. The club has 20 or more members. This is difficult, as I said, because sometimes clubs do lose members for reasons beyond their control. But as much as possible, if you can strive for 20 or more, then as I already said earlier, you have that energy, you have that relay system where you don't have to be running around doing more than one role at one time. And again, this is another of those painful things, painful moments of truth. Do your members stay? And again, minus the fact that there's a unavoidable churn, people move, they meet their goals, they retire, and some even move on to another dimension. But other than that, are your members staying? If it's more than 50% loss every cycle, you probably need to carefully review what's going on. If you have about 40%, that's Toastmasters says that's relatively average. How well are you promoting the club? If it's a corporate club, do the members of the organization even know about it? If it's a community club, do the people in the neighborhood even know about it? And that's constant. That's not, you do it one time. We had an open house. Yeah, the open house helps to have an elevated awareness, but there needs to be constant promotion. Are the club programs varied and exciting? You notice we're talking here about membership strengths, but yes, if it's just the same thing over and over again, people get tired and then they don't continue attending meetings. Is Toastmasters sponsoring new members to be recognized? Like, this is one of the things that doesn't get mentioned often, but when somebody brings in a guest, there needs to be recognition. Hey, so-and-so is here because thanks to so-and-so. And then when that member joins, maybe a little ribbon or applause for that person who brought that member in. What I do is when there's a guest and the member, that guest wants to become a member, we always make sure that the sponsor box in the membership application form is filled up. Even if the guest prospect doesn't fill it out because he doesn't know any better, we fill it out with the person who invited him. So that person earns credits for sponsorship. And regular membership building programs. I think we had a session, it wasn't me who did that, but there was a session about that, so I won't go into the details. But there are different ways of conducting membership building programs. And finally, achievement recognition. There's this debate that always rages towards this time of the year, especially going into June. Are the awards submitted immediately or are they being banked? And if it's the person himself, like for example, in my case, I belong to 7 clubs. So when I submit for Basecamp, I tell the VPE, don't submit it on Club Central yet, because I want to decide which club is going to get it. But for most members who belong to only one club, when they submit, immediately put it on Club Central so that they get the credit for that. Do you have a progress chart? I know this is not as easy now with pathways because there's so many paths, it's harder. But actually, when I was the team lead at the convention in Chicago, we had a pathways chart, but it ran out and it's out of stock now. But you can still create your own. Just have a progress chart so that you can show, okay, who is on what path, what level is he on, and have that visibly displayed. So when the guests come in, they look at it. What's that? You know, what's written there tends to get followed through because people can see where they are, and there's a spirit of friendly competition. Others will say, oh, wow, he's on level 3. I'm only on level 1. I need to catch up. Member achievements are recognized with ceremony. Print it out and show it. Show it to the membership. Even if we're an online club, we print out the certificate and we show it on screen. And of course, if there are visitors, district or international leaders, if they visit, recognize them, mention who they are so that the members know that these folks are part of the Toastmasters hierarchy. And as I mentioned, club and member achievements publicized. If you have a local paper, give them a picture. So and so won a contest. Not just on Facebook, that's great. Facebook is great. But having the members' picture in the newspaper. Number one, that's great recognition. It's also a great way of bringing in prospects because they read and say, "What's this? Oh, oh, they meet on Mondays. Okay, we want to check this out." So it always works both ways. So these are the moments of truth, and of course the DCP Distinguished Club Program for Planning and Recognition. But these are the moments of truth. And so, just to summarize, how well does the club perform on each of the 6 standards? First impressions, membership orientation, fellowship, variety, and communication, program planning, and meeting organization, membership strength, that's always the ouch one, and achievement recognition. So ask yourself those questions. And at this point, I'd like to close the slide or stop the screen share so we can have either you share your own experiences with moments of truth or ask me questions because there's just so much about moments of truth. And I have to say this, I am sad about the fact that Moments of Truth is one of Toastmasters' best tools. It is also one of the least utilized tools. I hear so many clubs saying, well, we don't do moments of truth. What's moments of truth? And then the clubs that know what moments of truth are, you'll hear either of two opposites. One school of thought will say, oh, we don't need moments of truth because we're doing great. And then you hear from the other side, oh, we're too few. There's no point in having moments of truth. And both are actually incorrect. So my recommendation, and World Headquarters would say this as well, is if you can, do moments of truth at least once a year, if you can. If not, then maybe once every other year. But the advantage of doing it once a year is that before you hand over to the next set of officers, they know what areas have been good, great, in fact, and they also know what areas need to be improved. So they can work on that. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now and see if there's any questions or comments.
I agree with you, by the way, about moments of truth being important and valuable. When we've done moments of truth, it is always eye-opening. The one thing that I've heard many times mentioned is that there's lots of excuses why clubs don't do it, but the biggest excuse that's usually out there is that, and they won't usually admit to it, but it's this fear of finding out what doesn't work.
So true. Amen to that. And one of the things I have been doing so that people don't have that fear is to not even use the word moments of truth. I have conducted moments of truth without saying this is moments of truth. I just say, hey, let's find out, what do people like about our club? See, because that's very cool. People want to know what people like about the club. I mean, officers want to know that. And then I say, and we'll also find out what we could do better. So very soft, very gentle. And I also don't, well, depends on the club, on the receptiveness, but sometimes I shorten the questionnaire because I was going to show the questionnaire. It can get a little bit longish. Where's that questionnaire? Moments of Truth chart. This is where I need to get to the share again before I open that. And then I have to make sure that I reshare, new share. Do you see the moments of truth chart?
Yes.
Okay, so I just, sometimes I bring this, but sometimes I just pick and choose because it can get a little bit heavy when you ask all of these questions. Sometimes I only work on one or two areas. But yeah, that is a challenge. Some officers don't want to find out. And yeah, truth sometimes hurts.
I
How
have a
ironic.
question.
Sure, Marie.
Michelle. We did the moment of truth last year, and it was kind of difficult, hard, and we found out what we need to do, but we didn't do it. And I said,
Ouch.
if we little bit doing even a little bit less. So, but I like your approach. The moment of truth is kind of scary. So if we could use just what we did last year and say, we didn't do much about it. How we can fill it out this year? So it's moving forward.
Yes, yes.
What is your idea? Would you like to meet somewhere, or ask just those areas which needed improvement?
Right, right. See, because people, a lot of times people are willing to help, but they are not ready to jump in and give feedback which they might consider hurtful or might demoralize people. So if you just say, hey, let's talk about what you'd like to see or where you feel that you could help. For example, with one of my advanced clubs, it's supposed to be focused on trainers, but the challenge is sometimes the trainers themselves are so busy that they're not really showing their best. So we got feedback from a new member. And so what we've done is we brought him in, and although he doesn't have an official officer role because he doesn't want to make that commitment yet, but he's helping. So he's like a brain trust. So it's sometimes the choice of words. I know Toastmasters International thought carefully about this, but sometimes the word choices can make people feel a little bit scared. And for example, instead, Marie, I would suggest that instead of saying we didn't do that much last year, instead of saying that, I would say we had a great start last year with tackling some of the areas. Now, we'd like to continue on that. See, because great start and continue are very gentle, non-threatening. Yes,
Positive.
very positive, and it does not indicate any criticism of the previous
Or
set
fault.
of officers. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
Great point, Marie. And thank you. I think you were also attending the previous session that I did. So I love the fact that I see you again. Thank you. Any comments or your own moments of truth that you want to share about Toastmasters?
I think Lisa had one as well.
Yeah, Lisa. Could you unmute yourself?
Hi, Michelle. Thank you.
Hi.
We had a moment of truth this week. We had 2 guests attend, and we were busy greeting them and welcoming them to the meeting. And one of the guest comments at the end was like, I'd like to have a takeaway. We hadn't provided them with a guest package yet.
Ouch.
But the chair was very skillful. She says, before you leave, we'll give you a guest package. But it was a moment of truth. We're like, well, we can do better.
Well, and thank you, Lisa, for sharing that. And the other reason why I'm holding up double kudos is that you had a guest packet ready. I cringe at the number of clubs that don't have a guest packet available. And I'm like, no, that was your chance. And there are also clubs, they do have guest packets, but they don't put the membership application form in there. They don't, and I'm like, lost opportunity. I heard I know it was well intentioned. I heard a division director, not your district, by the way, Sean, because I belong to 4 districts. Another district, one of the division directors said, well, we don't want to overwhelm people with the guest packet contents. I'm like, put the membership application under everything else. So if the prospect goes through that packet and gets to the final page and it's the membership application, great. If they don't go that far, then fine. But you lost an opportunity if you didn't put it there. So great job, Lisa, that you did have a membership packet. I mean, a guest packet. And I hope you had a membership application form there. You don't have to answer if you didn't have it.
Absolutely. It was
Good.
underneath some of the papers as to how much the dues were, what
There you are.
Toastmasters could offer, as well as brochures.
There you are. Perfect. Perfect. Anyone else? We have about 13 minutes left to the end of the session. So anything else that you have personally experienced in your club, or maybe you visited another club, or maybe you've heard about it and you want to share it? If not, then I would like to add something else. One of the beautiful things about Moments of Truth is that you can customize it to your club. And of course, if you have a really big club, then you can have a full-blown Moments of Truth. Full-blown meaning you break up. For example, if you're one of those lucky clubs that have 30 members who come and attend, then you can break up your 30 into groups of 5, so that, because there are 6 categories in Moments of Truth, you can break them up into groups of 5. So you have each of the groups talking about one. So they can discuss, and it's usually easier to discuss when you have a smaller group than you talk in the entire 30, big group of 30. So if there are 5 of them and they're, for example, working on first impressions. So they can talk about, okay, when you first came in, how did you feel about it? Or how do you think we're doing? So they can be very candid, and then they can suggest things to do. Actually, there's another chart, and I am a bit worried about pulling that up, because let me see if I can pull that up without having trouble. Moments of Truth chart. I have a funny feeling there. I hope hasn't opened yet. Okay, I know I have to new share.
Second.
Okay, new share. Are you getting it? Are you seeing it? There's this handout. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, so this handout is like the most complete material for Moments of Truth. So you could give this to all the members, and then so they fill that out, and then after this there are, it's tilted. I don't know why Toastmasters would do that. I love them. But anyway, this is the best practices chart, and I will send you links to this, or they're actually downloadable from World Headquarters. But the material would go through suggestions, possible causes. For example, I know it's tilted, sorry, but you will just look. For example, members are not earning awards. And then what are the possible causes, and what are the recommendations? So per group, you could have each of the groups going through this and encircling what they think would work and adding recommendations that are not there. And then each of the groups comes back and reports on their discussions. That's if you have a big group. Now, if you have, and I know this happens, if you have like 5 or 6 members showing up, what you could do is you could have it as a questionnaire, like a take-home assignment, and you can report back at the next meeting, or you can even spread it out. Just avoid belaboring it, I had one club that did Moments of Truth for 6 meetings. They spent 1 meeting each for each of the categories. Please don't do that. That is a little bit too much. Okay, so has anyone else thought of something related to Moments of Truth?
I'm just going to add that the thing that to me that is the most important is how professionally run that meeting is. My first experience going to a Toastmaster meeting went to a small club that happened to be walking distance from my house. So I decided to go there first, even though I'd already made requests to go to I didn't know I was going to be a guest. I didn't know how the process, but I said I invited myself to go to a club that was meeting the following week. So anyway, I went to this one club, and I went in there and had to go through a little bit of security at the opening of the building, which was fine. And then they proceeded to take me to a room where there was about 5 people in the meeting, one of whom was a child, about 10 years old. And it was a child of one of the members, and that person was participating, and everyone had a role or 2 roles or 3 roles because it was very, very, very busy. But it was not very professional. It was ad hoc, it was last minute, and I didn't feel that this was going to be for me what I was looking for to help me achieve the communication goals that I was looking for. Fortunately, the second club that I went to, which is one I figured I would probably end up going to, met all of those and more. And it was a club that I'm very proud to have been was my home club for many years before I moved. And I love that club, and it's taught me a lot. And some of that experience I actually use today in the business meeting, because every one of the club meetings had a business meeting. It only lasted 5 to 10 minutes on the agenda, but it forced the chair to learn how to conduct a business meeting according to parliamentary procedures.
Wonderful. That is a great experience that you shared, Sean. And that just highlights why Moments of Truth are so important. Because can you imagine what would have happened if you had gone to that first meeting, which was so blah, and in fact, you were just so turned off about Toastmasters in general that you never went to another meeting? We would have lost the district director. Wow. But
there would have been another district director, but
but the point being that we in a club, and I am coaching 2 clubs which are also very small. In fact, at one point, one of the clubs I was coaching was down to 1 member and the club was suspended. I wasn't coaching the club yet at the time because obviously if the club is suspended, we had to resurrect the club before I could be a coach. But I have been telling them I know I'm like a broken record. It doesn't matter. Even if you have only 3 people in the room and it happens, once the gavel is banged, and do make sure that you bang the gavel. Once it is banged, then be professional. No more, okay, what are we going to do now? No, we do that before the meeting. And if there are already guests before the meeting, then we say, bear with us. One of the people who was supposed to do this isn't here. But at least they know that we are not like this. And then they see the change. It helps that we record all the meetings, of course. So I always say, Mr. President, shall I start the recording now? And that sort of, listen up. So people see that even if it's a very small group, it is still professional. And then before we end, I always say, shall I stop the recording now? So there's that beginning and end, and the professionalism, even if you have 3 people in the room, and it might happen. Okay, so we have 5 minutes to the end of the session. Does anyone have anything else they want to share or a question they want to pose? Or an experience, a great experience that you want to share with us? Okay. Well, Sean, do you have any final words before we wrap up the session?
I would like to just add that if you think your club is doing great, then you should run Moments of Truth to confirm it. If you have some concerns about your club, you should run Moments of Truth to find out if those concerns are valid. in all cases, moments of truth will either confirm that things are going well or provide you insight on how you can make it better. So there's no downside of running moments of truth. It will only improve the interaction or the perception that the members and the guests have when they come into your meetings. It'll make their process or their journey through Toastmasters a much better one, because you'll be able to meet their needs by understanding those needs and if your club is fulfilling them. So if you really care about the growth and the opportunities for your members, then Moments of Truth is something that you should do. If you don't care, or you're just a social club and you don't care, then there's no reason to run it.
Well, at least find out about first and third categories, right? I mean, if it's just a social club, I would say, well, find out at least how are you doing on fellowship and fun and first impressions. I always believe in foot in the door. And to your question, Jim, I was just seeing Jim had a quick question. It helps if the person doing the Moments of Truth has some experience, but not necessarily, because see, when you download the material, it walks you through it. The handout is very detailed, a little bit too detailed sometimes. That's why one of the clubs did Moments of Truth for 6 meetings. That was a little too much, but there are details in the handout. I will send it out. I will send it to Sean and Mike, and then they can send it out to you. Or you can also just go to Toastmasters and download it. But sometimes it's nice to get the links already. And thank you so much, Lisa. Oh, there you are. Jim just said he has a copy. Yes. But if ever you need to have somebody walk you through, like, okay, you read this and are we supposed to do this? Feel free to email me. I'm really easy to reach. And my email address, I was going to give this earlier, but anyway, never too late to give an email address. There, I just typed my email address into the chat. It's really easy to remember, michelle@wlfcenter.com. Oh, I just realized some people find it difficult because the center is spelled the way the Brits do. So this one is even easier, toastmaster.michelle@gmail.com. And I really try to answer all my emails. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I don't get to answer immediately, but I do. So there you are. And yeah, if you arrived late, that's okay. I always say better late than never. And also, we will have a recording of this. Sean is really good at doing that. And I love how he knows how to edit. I don't. So thank you so much, Sean. And I think it is now a minute. Yes. Lisa, did you say that? Or Marie? Yes, Marie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I love District 21. I say this even when I'm not speaking to District 21. I kind of brag about that District 21 is ahead in many things, in many ways. For example, the Sunday seminars. I love these. And I have been I'm mentoring a couple of program quality directors. Well, one is now incoming district director next year. I've been telling them, hey, look, District 21 has regular Sunday seminars. You don't have to have it on Sunday, but make it a regular weekly thing so people have something to look forward to, plan it ahead. Now it's the bottom of the hour, so I will stop talking and thank everyone, and especially Sean and Mike, who's not here, but thank the trio for the wonderful job they're doing. Back to you, Sean.
Thank you very much. Well, Michael is on the ferry or on his way home after this long weekend. Although it's only a 2-day weekend, it was a 3-day weekend for us for the district conference, and it all went well. So thank you again, Michelle, for doing a wonderful job of leading us through Moments of Truth and answering questions, providing us insight, and providing us access to more additional information that you will provide yourselves directly. And from all of us on this call, thank you. And from District 21 and all the district leadership at District 21, thank you for being our guest host for the hosting of this week.
Thank you.